should we allow people's genetic information to be used to maybe help find criminals? Hi, I'm Emma.
And I'm Rachel.
And we are the Steministas. We educate the public about science and the news.
Today we'll be talking about a story that I found particularly interesting on the Golden State Killer. So this was a serial killer in California in the 1970s and 80s. Pretty brutal. He murdered around 12 people, raped over 50 women, and also committed many burglaries. And while the police found DNA evidence at the scene, they were completely unable to link it to a specific person. However, recently, you might have heard about this in the news because they were able to use one of those DNA ancestry websites that you may have heard about to find a relative of the killer and actually find out who he is.
That's pretty absurd.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary almost a little bit too, but really cool.
Yeah.
So we said that they found DNA, and let's just give a little brief introduction about what DNA is.
Right.
So DNA is kind of like, I kind of think about it as like the instruction manual for our bodies. Like our bodies have to make all these different cells, heart cells, lung cells, muscle cells, and it needs a way to do that. So the DNA is like the instruction book, and it allows our body to make all the things that we need every day. Humans are 99.9% the same, and it's pretty crazy that we only differ by like 0.1%.
Right.
And the way that we differ is in these things called single nucleotide polymorphisms. So some of you may remember from high school biology, your DNA is made up of these different base pairs: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And if these base pairs change by one base pair, they're either called mutations, or in the case of human variation, they're called the single nucleotide polymorphisms. And they're just a change in one base pair that maybe determine if I have blue eyes or you have brown eyes. So it's really pretty simple.
And these single nucleotide polymorphisms, if we go back to the analogy of like a book, these change the letters, but they don't always necessarily change the significance of the word. So you can compare this to like how a British person might spell center, C-E-N-T-R-E, but in America we spell it E-R. It's the same meaning, but just slightly different. So you can perhaps tell a person's country of origin, for instance.
Yeah. And so these ancestry sites, the only thing that they're measuring when you spit in a tube and give them your saliva is they're just measuring your different SNPs or your different changes in your DNA. And so by putting all these changes together, they're able to give you an ancestry profile or a human health profile that tells you if you have a certain disease or if you're from Europe or Asia or Africa.
You've probably heard of the websites like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. But the actual website that the FBI used to identify this killer was a little bit different. It's called Ged Match, and it's open source. And unlike 23andMe and Ancestry.com, which protect your information and won't make it publicly available, so GED is a little bit different in that it doesn't actually provide the service of like taking your DNA and taking your saliva and extracting the DNA. It more acts as a go-between for different sites, so that people using different sites can still find each other. For instance, if you're using Ancestry.com and try and find a relative, and they're using 23andMe, you might never be able to find each other. So that's kind of what this site does. You just upload your genetic information and they make the match.
So if I had a GED match, like if I had my 23andMe genome, I could just upload that to GED Match and it would interface with like Ancestry, and then I could see my potential ancestors.
Right, if your relative on Ancestry also chose to upload their information to GED.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Since this website is open, the FBI was actually able to access the database and share the genetic profile from the DNA evidence they found and make a connection to one of the killer's relatives. So that's how they found the relative.
And then they further verified that once they found this match, they further verified this by going to the Golden State Killer's, like where he kind of hangs out and the areas where he's at, and they actually, I think, pulled like a gum wrapper or something, or were able to go through his trash and like take the DNA off something he touched before. So, and they had the jurisdiction to do that because they basically knew, okay, this is the guy, we just want to verify, and they were able to match the DNA exactly.
Right, so it's not Fourth Amendment violation, illegal search and seizure. Actually, if you like blow into a tissue or something and leave it on the ground, you're just
DNA's there,
open for
anyone
anyone to
can get
take.
it.
Free for all.
So are there any laws that protect against people like taking your DNA and using it, or maybe even discriminating against you because of your DNA?
Yeah, actually in 2008, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act was passed, or GINA, people call it. So this protects from discrimination from your employers and also from insurance companies. So insurance companies can't deny you service or make your premiums higher because of your genetic information. And also employers can decide not to hire you or not to promote you based off genetic information. However, this doesn't cover disability insurance or insurance policies.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I actually read I didn't go through on each website and see which company has which policy, but a CNN article said that some of these policies even put clauses in their terms of service that they can change the policy at any time.
Wow.
Which, kind of makes sense because science is ever changing and they need some flexibility to evolve the policy, but at the same time, it's not always fair to the consumer to
say that because they're not going to go and check.
Right.
You may wonder how the FBI was able to use Ged Match. So since Ged Match is more open source, they were able to access it. But say if you have done 23andMe or Ancestry, the government's not going to be able to take your information from there.
Right. In fact, in their terms of service, they specifically say that they will resist giving your information to law enforcement unless they're required to do so by a court order or a subpoena.
So you can kind of rest assured that your genetic information is safe. But it opens up the question of, should we allow people's genetic information to be used to maybe help find criminals? Because this is a great example of a case that's been ongoing for many, many years, and now it's been solved just with genetic information.
Which is a great thing. But at the same time, Golden State Killer, I can't imagine how he must feel. He's not even the one that used this website, and they're still able to find him. So I think it's a dicey place in terms of privacy when you share so much identity or genetic identity with your relatives that they can be making the choice for you by sharing on these websites.
Yeah.
I think in that way, the laws and regulations haven't quite caught up to where we're going with genetics.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think?
Tell us in comments. Leave us some feedback. Ask another question that we can answer.
Yeah.